Welcome to Forum 360 on Fusion, your PBS channel. This is Leslie Ungar, your host today. Thank you for joining us on our global outlook with a local view. If you can remember the social climate for veterans returning from Vietnam, or if you've read about vets returning from Vietnam, then you know it seems as though the landscape is very different today for those returning from Iraq, Afghanistan, and other locations in the world. But is it really? For those returning and leaving the armed services, what is it like to be in the job search? How do the skills one learned representing their country transfer to the corporate world? Are these skills valued by small business, higher education, and the nonprofit world? There is a saying that hiring veterans is good business. Servicemen and women have outstanding leadership, technical skills that make them an asset to any organization. Are veterans able to identify and talk about these skills? And does the business world appreciate these skills of leadership, teamwork, deadlines, confidentiality, and loyalty? Today we have two guests joining us, one from the corporate world and one from the world of veterans. Larry Moore, Executive Director, Summit County Veterans Service Commission, will give us the veterans perspective. Brian Fortney, Rockwell Automation, Global Product Manager and Training Services, will tell us about one company trying to do their part. Welcome to Forum 360. Larry, I want to start with you. Can you tell us, in what I, as a communication coach, referred to as the time it takes to walk across a room, what role the Veterans Commission plays for a serviceman or servicewoman?
Basically, we're there to connect those veterans with their benefits. And that covers a whole gamut of things, everything from financial aid to helping them file for their GI Bill so they can go back to college, for a VA home loan, as well as enroll them in the healthcare system, explain all the ins and outs, basically be their navigator to get them through the bureaucracy called the Department of Veterans Affairs.
And so you as a veteran are calling it the bureaucracy of Veteran Affairs.
Yep, always has been. It's very difficult for a veteran. Years ago, it's a reason why there's VSOs, or what we call service officers, within not only the 88 counties, which we were established in 1886 by the Ohio legislators, but also the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the American Legion, the DAV, and the AMVETS all have trained national service officers as well, because we found out a long time ago, ever since the end of 1945 is when the GI Bill was created and came out, and there was a need then that we needed to expand what a service officer can do and what he's taught and accredited to do, because the veteran himself, left on his own to try to get through this, is very difficult.
How important is it for, say, getting a house, getting a loan, all the things that they need to do? How much of all of that is a veteran having a job?
Some of it's tied to the job, and obviously it's very important. And it's very important, and over the years now, it was very difficult. People didn't recognize the training, the intense training that military individuals get. There was not a way to translate that into the private sector. That's gotten better now through Ohio Means Jobs and whatnot. We actually come up with a way to explain to those employers of what that MOS, or military occupation specialty, is, so how it relates it over into their job area. Some people might not think that, but some guys who he's an Army Command Sergeant Major, this combat all of his life. They go, well, he's an infantryman. What kind of credibility could he ever train besides going out and shooting people? But the point is, he's in charge of 120 men, so they send him to HR school, and they taught him how to manage people. And somebody credits that.
We're going to talk about how a veteran has to learn how to be able to talk about their skill set.
Sure.
But what are some of the challenges from your perspective that a veteran has in both applying in the workforce and in working in the business world, and not being around the service people anymore that they're used to being around? What are some of the challenges that has in trying to get to a workplace and in being in the workplace?
One of those challenges is, it depends on where, if he's having that difficulty in not getting credit for his training. Okay. You take like somebody who's a combat medic, or what we call a Navy corpsman who's in combat. In the state of Ohio, he's lucky if they'll even let him drive the ambulance. He's had more than 3 years of intensive training. He's patched up more people and seen more kinds of injuries than most people, and in a pressured situation had to make life and death decisions. But when he comes back here, that training, when he tries to apply for an EMT or something like that, or one of the nurses I knew, she said, you know, I can't. She said, I was in charge of 200 beds in a wing in Iraq, and he says, I can't even walk in a hospital in Ohio. So those are the kind of, you know, so giving that accreditation and getting those people to certify, and it'll let them, you know, understand, you know, what kind of training they do and appreciate it. Tri-C Cleveland College was one of the first ones to start giving credit points for that when they went back to college. Now that's getting more of a normal thing throughout most of the colleges. They give them some credit for that. Some of the employees, such as like the medical field, will give them X amount of accreditation for that training. They recognize that now. It was quite a few years ago they didn't all. They came out and they were very disappointed, and it was a very difficult world for them to walk into and get their foot in the door, so to speak. It's very difficult.
One company with an initiative to work with veterans, Rockwell Automation. Rockwell Automation and Manpower have graduated the first pilot class from the Academy of Advanced Manufacturing. Is that true?
It is true, and I think you said it really well, right? It is a partnership, and it's really two companies, right? Rockwell Automation and Manpower. Our CEOs came together and realized there's a challenge, right? The United States faces a great challenge in the space of manufacturing. Finding that skilled individual who can come in on day one add value on the plant floor or in the leadership of the plant floor.
So take us back. How did this collaboration to provide military veterans with high-paying job opportunities and help manufacturing, how did this collaboration come about?
Well, I think
because it might give an idea to some other companies out there as to, you know, what to do with this idea.
Yeah, well, I think it starts with why, right? Simon Sinek always says start with why. Well, what's our customers' why? Why are they blocked from being able to grow their production? Why are they inhibited in the time it takes to bring new offerings to market, right, from a manufacturing space, right? It's the skilled talent that helps them to be productive, right? And when you start from a business standpoint with your customer's true problem in mind, and that's not always the problem that they bring it front and center to you, right? Sometimes you have to peel back the onion and really understand. What we found was there's a skills gap in the United States. By the year 2022, there are the potential of having 5 million manufacturing jobs going unfilled.
So do you know, did Rockwell approach Manpower? Did Manpower approach Rockwell? Do you know how that initiative came about?
You know what, I think it came together is both companies are based in Milwaukee. Our CEO from Rockwell, Blake Moret, and the CEO of Manpower, Jonas Priesing, had a chance to get together in Milwaukee, and a conversation came about of how can we help both of our customers. Manpower being the world leader in staffing and workforce solutions, and Rockwell being the world leader in focused industrial automation solutions, saw a bridge amongst our customers and how we could make that connection and help them reach, right? Help them to reach a really key talent, a talent population.
So let's take a step back for a moment, because Rockwell is a name that many of us in Northeast Ohio have heard for a long time, but we don't necessarily know what Rockwell does. So tell us, what does Rockwell do, and in what cities or countries does Rockwell do it?
All right. Well, Rockwell Automation, right, we're a global supplier of industrial automation solutions. And so what does that really mean, right? If you've ever watched a TV show, how's it made? If you've ever had a chance to do a field trip to a factory or been at an automotive facility, right? And you look at how the lines move. Think of food production, right? Think of the conveyors and think of the jars that are filled, capped, sealed, and delivered out, box packed and crated and delivered to your local Walmart, Acme, Giant Eagle. All of that is automated today. And the software, hardware, and infrastructure that is put into place is really what Rockwell Automation does. And then what my business within Rockwell Automation does is the customer training, right? Helping the technicians, helping the workforce to be able to optimize these investments and really make a difference in growth of productivity.
And some of the places you do it, because you mentioned Milwaukee was headquarters.
That's headquarters. Our second largest headquarters is right here in the greater Cleveland area, right up in Mayfield Heights. But we're a global company operating throughout the world, strong market share in North America. And if you can think of a manufacturer, we're connected to them.
So this was the pilot class.
Mm-hmm.
Are they in process of a second class? Are there plans for a second class? What did you learn? What did Rockwell learn? And they're planning to duplicate this?
Well, I think that the number one key learning was our customers need this. Our customers need the help. And our veterans, right, to your point, right. Larry, I think you were spot on. Right? You made the point about the connections. Well, making that connection between the skills that they have in theater, the skills that they have on deployment, and how they come back and communicate that value into the HR, into the corporate environment, and bridging that gap, right?
Correct.
The skill set of a industrial maintenance technician aligns really, really well with many of the MOS codes that we see in the Army, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force. And being able to drive these connections and help them to envision it and then help them to further be trained, almost like a finishing school, right? So that they can go out and take this training and make the most of it. But we don't stop there. We help them find jobs.
Now, Larry, in a study by the Center of the New American Security, conducted lengthy interviews with 87 people representing 69 companies, the overriding sentiment was the same. Veteran workers bring real value to an organization. Do you see vets fitting in better in small companies, in large companies like Rockwell, the nonprofit world, higher education? Is there any place that you see that is a better fit for veterans than another?
Pretty much no. They're limitless. They can adapt themselves. That's part of what their training was, adaptability. Mm-hmm. Adaptability in pressurized situations. At a young age, being in charge of a squad, making decisions, some of them life-threatening, in a moment's notice. So when you're looking at whether you're a private entity, you're a charitable entity, you're a corporate, you're looking for these kind of people. And what I hear from Chamber of Commerce a lot is the two things I can't find is, one, I can't find anybody who'll pass drug screening, mm-hmm. and somebody will show up every day for work. I said, these veterans will. They'll show up, they'll bring skills with them, they bring discipline, they know chain of command, they know how all of that works, and they can work under any kind of pressure. A lot of them come in with foreign language skills, so if you're a big corporate like Rockwell is, when somebody overseas, you've got somebody also that's been trained in linguistics, so you've got a great situation going there. Half the equipment that you see in the military, I can tell you from my experience, I can remember seeing a lot of stuff that we used was Rockwell. Mm-hmm. That's just it. Just is. It's been around forever. So you see that.
On that note, let me reintroduce our topic today. We're talking about veterans returning to the workplace, and we're talking about this topic with Larry Moore from the Summit County Veterans Commission and Brian Fortney, Rockwell Automation, who has the first pilot initiative to kind of put veterans together with a need in manufacturing. 20% of the workplace will retire over the next 8 years. Some 2 million manufacturing jobs will go unfilled by 2025. Larry, are there a lot of other companies besides a company like Rockwell that you're aware of that have initiatives for vets?
There's quite a few of them coming on board right now, and we work through the Ohio Department of Veteran Services with a lot of those folks through Monster.com, a bunch of employment guys, because they all acknowledge it. Also the tradespeople, everybody from bricklayers to steel workers to pipe fitters. They're all looking down the road and seeing they got a horrendous shortage because everybody wanted to go to college. Well, you can go into the trades or go into the factory, and in some places, depending on what your skill levels are, you're doing 6 figures nowadays, which some people mm-hmm. think that's unbelievable, but no, it's not.
We call it the new truck test.
Yeah.
Go drive up to a manufacturing facility and look at how many shiny large new trucks
exactly
are in the parking lot. there's a good quality of life. And Leslie, that's one of the biggest gaps, especially in here in the industrial Rust Belt, that manufacturing has faced. It's because for generations, right, people have created a perception that everyone must go to college, or that manufacturing is not stable.
Little do they know how badly welders are needed.
Oh, welders! Right? If you have a welder, I know we can use a welder.
Right.
I think it's right here locally. It's J-Ram, or I think it's a trucking outfit. We've met with those folks, and they're the same thing. They're figuring out you also got to come up with different plans over the road truck drivers. In other words, they can't have. If you're going to have somebody, they become family people. These veterans do. They can't be away 2 months at a time, and they realize that they'll lose their employees if they can't figure out a way to get them family oriented and get them home in reasonable time so they can spend time with their families. So that whole, it used to be with the teams and everything, they're out driving, they're gone for a month, they've realized that they can't be there anymore. They have to, they got to rethink their thought pattern too about around that family unit.
Yeah, there is a work-life balance across all things. And companies like J-Rail, companies like our manufacturers, right, they have to do a better job of communicating the lifestyles, communicating the outcomes, communicating the impacts in the communities that the manufacturing industry has to appeal and draw people in, right? You talk to a lot of Generation X, Generation Z, Generation on, right? They all talk about computer coding, right? Or they talk about programming, software, right? A lot of manufacturing jobs today are programming, software, coding. Coding is probably the #1 need in industrial security in the manufacturing space.
So let me ask both of you from your different perspectives. I came across a quote: "We look for people with leadership skills. If someone can lead a team of soldiers around the world, they can lead our large stores." Another noted, 95% of the kids coming out of college have never managed before. They may be very smart, but they have no leadership experience. So from your perspective, what are some of the qualities that are important that they may have learned? We touched upon that in the introduction. Is it leadership? Is it teamwork? Is it the ability to adapt? Is it being drug-free? Is it being, loyal? What are some of the qualities that you have found apply especially well into manufacturing?
One that stands out immediately is perseverance, right? So when a manufacturing line goes down, right? Or when there's a problem in the line. Think back to I Love Lucy, right?
Yeah.
You guys, everybody can remember the candy, and it starts speeding, right? My mom used to love that episode, and then one day she was over and it was on, and I said, well, that's probably a drive failure with an incorrect parameter structure. And my mom looks at me and she goes, well, no, it's just funny. I'm like, well, yeah. But the point of it is the perseverance, right? To get to the root cause, to solve the problem, to be committed, right? That perseverance, that's the #1 quality that our customers stated they were looking for in potential hires. And these folks have it in spades.
Okay, hang on to that because I'm going to come back to that in a moment. What would you say is the #1 quality that's transferable that companies are looking for?
Well, and he's pretty much, that's what we're just talking about. That's the same kind of thing. It's that adaptability, that perseverance. The veteran's attitude is, like a lot of employees hear from some employees that you don't like to hear, is like, that's not my job. Whereas a veteran will look at it and he'll look at it and go, we need to get this done. So how do we adapt and how do we overcome?
So my question then, and one of my interests in this topic as a communication coach, is that I always work with people that need to learn how to talk about their value. They need to be able to identify, and they have to be able to talk about it. Would you say that veterans are effective at being able to talk about these skills and how they apply in the workplace? Overall, I mean, as a generalization.
Yeah, I certainly do believe so. Because they have to communicate. They have to communicate from a squad to a company to a battalion. That whole thing goes down. They learn that going up the chain and going down the chain. I look at it today, and I see a real problem with the young people with all their nice little gadgets and everything. They don't speak English anymore. They don't communicate.
You speak correct English.
Yeah, exactly. They do the abbreviations and everything.
Right,
but
right.
I think somebody, I came from doing sales and other things that I learned over a period of time and things like that. And I learned that, and I would tell somebody right now, you need to work on that end of it, communications. It doesn't matter how much intelligence you got, now how many skill levels you got. If you can't communicate that to the other folks, then it's a loss. It always is. I was always taught that, look, you always teach that person below you as best you can, because you're never going to move up if they can't move up.
I think the interesting point to that is the extension of it, right, Leslie? They're very good at communicating that ability, that skills, but they're not really good in using one word, I. Veterans come out and they think in we, or our unit,
team.
Okay, so
speaking their own skill set.
That's really interesting, because I actually have a question about that, because we talk about teamwork a lot in this country, in the workplace, in sports. We talk about it, but from your perspective, is teamwork important or valued today?
Well, I think teamwork is critical. I mean, I think about our business, right? The best thing that I can do is get out of my team's way. Quite frankly, we have very, very smart individuals that are out there helping our distributors grow our business, interacting with our customers, right? And they are an empowered team to support each other, right? I'm here to help with some direction, but I really want to get out of their way. In this space, right, you have to almost look at it in a reverse angle, because we did some studies, or Manpower did some studies, and it was interesting to find out that the #1 reason that some veterans would step away from or didn't find success in corporate or manufacturing environments was that lack of a sense of united mission, right? We all see mission statements or vision statements everywhere we go, but do we really live those? And I think veterans are very aware of that sense of mission and purpose, and they seek that out. They desire that, and that can be a barrier to success if that doesn't live in the organization.
Yeah, and one of the places where I think where you do see difficulty in that is with those career military that get retired, whether they be colonels or officers or senior NCOs. Now they're 40 some years old, between 40 and 50. Moving over to that corporate world becomes very difficult for them, because they've always had it where they gave the orders, they said this, and there was nobody in HR telling them that they couldn't upset somebody, and they couldn't. And that takes an area. That's an adjustment for them.
It is.
It's a serious adjustment for them.
I think we're seeing that in many places in today's world. But my last question before the my lightning round, there are tax credits involved for hiring vets.
Correct.
But would you say is that a reason to hire a vet, or is that just an extra perk for hiring a vet?
That's just icing on the cake. That's not the reason you want to go through all those things. It's just like you look at an aircraft carrier. Okay, that's nuclear powered with all kinds of weaponry that is devastating. It's a platform that we can move anywhere and perceive foreign policy anywhere in the world. There's 5,000 folks on that. Now, with all that going on, the average age of the individual operating that ship of 5,000 people is 20. That's nuclear powered. That's jet engines. That's when you start to think about how does the military do that.
So that means there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be young that are going to be looking for a job when they get out of the armed services.
It's how they educate. So you don't do electives. What you're doing is you go to school from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the day, 5 days a week. And you do that intensely for 16 weeks. And that's where that perseverance is. They stay right to the course, and they break that down, and that individual learns that. He also learns to be independent and work. He can either work with a team or work independently from them.
Now let's learn some things about you. In the couple minutes I have remaining, I'm going to ask for 1 or 2 word answers on some questions about Northeast Ohio, which I think is a jewel in the nation or in the world. In 1 or 2 words, the best thing about Northeast Ohio?
Swenson's cheeseburgers.
My next question was going to be Swenson's or Skyway. You answered both of them. Swenson's. So it would be Swenson's. Best thing about Northeast Ohio?
Changing seasons and the rolling hills. So I traveled quite a bit to a lot of different places. And it's one reason I came back to Ohio, where I was born and raised. I like it back here.
The next Ohio team to win a national championship? Brian?
Caps.
National team?
Not a local team like the Monsters. So Cavs, Indians, Browns.
Buckeyes. Period.
Okay. LeBron, is he going or staying?
He goes and he becomes a movie star.
Is LeBron going or staying?
He's going with his film company out on Hollywood.
Okay. Thank you for joining us on Forum 360, our global outlook with a local view. One company put it this way: we search out veterans, in particular, people coming out of high-pressure jobs, high-stress jobs, where they need to make quick decisions without a lot of information. These people are a good fit for our corporate culture. Veterans are disciplined team players that strengthen your company's goals and success. Their skills, values, and extensive training can enhance your organization's productivity. As we learned today, veterans are highly trained in career fields that apply to companies, industries, and professions like yours. Larry Moore, Summit County Veterans Service Commission, helped us understand the transition from military to corporate and civilian life. Brian Fortney, Rockwell Automation, shared with us results when a CEO or two and management team make a decision and a commitment to hire vets. Whether it's leadership, technology, or teamwork, think about filling a future position with a vet. For Forum 360, I'm Leslie Ungar, bringing you a global outlook with a local view. Thank you for joining us today.
Forum 360 is brought to you with support from Electric Impulse Communications, Kim and Harvey Nelson, Rubber City Radio Group, Acronist.com, Hudson Cable, Medical Mutual of Ohio, Forum 360 supporters, and the Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron.